So please join me in welcoming Michael Quinn.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. All right, they're awake. Steve did his part. So my part of the agenda, what am I going to talk about? I really want to try and get us, I'll say, thinking a little bit about where the industry's going. I want to talk a little bit about Encore itself, but more importantly, I want to talk about you, the customer. And I didn't say endpoint, I didn't say ratepayer, I didn't say meter point. You are our customers. Let's embrace you as our customers. Let's think about you as our customers. So, did a great job of setting up Welcome to Dallas. We are hugely appreciative for being given the opportunity to host EEI. Great group, a little over 700 folks that were registered for the event. We want you to take full advantage of the city. Cowboys course, quite nice course for those who got an opportunity to do that. We recognize we had a little bit of rain last week, so it made it a little bit soupy. But looked at the forecast, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, going to be great weather here in Dallas. Most people get out of town right before the next monsoon comes to us. So I'm sure you've got everything all planned, but for those that don't, from a restaurant standpoint, new portion of the city, not, I'll say less well-known, is right over the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge area. Took Steve to a place called Trinity Meadows. Neat restaurant area, has just about every flavor or nuance you'd want to. For the traditionalists, just stick down McKinney Avenue, you will find some good places to eat. All right. Let's talk for just a minute about Encore, who we are. We're a little over 100 years old. Some would say that's young. In fact, when Steve gave my bio, I said, man, I'm not young anymore either, right? I've been around for industry for 27 years, but the industry is significantly changing from where it once was, right? So in Texas, we serve almost 40% of the total load. If you look at that red space, it's a little over 50,000 square miles. So we go all the way from the Piney Woods to the Red River, almost to Oklahoma, down to just north of Austin, and you go all the way west to Midland, Odessa, even as far as Wink. Next speaker and I were actually talking about the wonderful world of Wink. A little over 3,400 employees at Encore. 16,000 miles of transmission line, a little over 100,000 miles of distribution. And then anytime your company's fixing to go transition and someone's going to buy you, the lawyers say, don't put a financial figure exactly in the annual capital spend, if you will, for me. Let me say it this way. We're north of $1 billion annually on infrastructure investment. So Dallas-Fort Worth, growing area. Our service territory, we're very fortunate. Texas in general, still continuing to grow. Give you a feel for it, West Texas, year-over-year growth in West Texas, pretty much fueled by the oil and gas boom, greater than 10% growth year-over-year for a number of years. So that brings its own challenges with it. Want to kind of tee up a few questions about where are we going as an industry? What are those factors that actually drive change in the industry? But more importantly, I want to try and at least tee up for this week's conversations, what are utilities doing to trying to address customer expectations? We're sure of this, they're increasing, right? From a reliability standpoint, outages are painful. Whether you're a residential customer or you're a national key account here in this room, we understand outages are painful for you. So what are we doing to try and mitigate that? What are we doing from a price of power standpoint? Texas is a wires company, and what do? We facilitate the marketplace. That means we build transmission and distribution infrastructure, and we try and get the cheapest price of power to market. That's what we do. We remove the clogs from the transmission system and try and get the cheapest generation available. We're a deregulated marketplace, so that means generation is competitive, the retail side is competitive. We as a wires company in the middle, we're a regulated entity. So the Public Utility Commission has oversight for us. But what does that mean? We enable the marketplace. kind of give you a cost perspective. As a residential customer, I just signed a new annual contract with my retail electric provider. My all-in cost, both wires and energy charge, 7.4 cents kWh. It's a pretty attractive number depending on where you are in the U.S. Last item I want to try and address is, how do we look at this collectively? What are we doing cohesively? What are we doing from a partnering perspective? Change. Anybody who's been in the industry understands change is in the wind, right? Federal regulation, FERC Order 1000. For those that aren't intimately familiar, that means we want to try and bring a competitive appetite to transmission development. It's happened in MISO, it's happened in SPP, it's happening out west. It actually happened in ERCOT a number of years ago. There was a point in time during the 2007 to 2011 timeframe where the Public Utility Commission, we had a proceeding called CREZ, Competitive Renewable Energy Zones, where there was substantial wind energy that was out west and needed to get into the marketplace. And so there was a bit of a stalemate, and they said, hey, utilities go build out to them. We said, well, we want to make sure they're there when we get there. And the wind customer said, well, it's tough for us to commit if the infrastructure's not there. If I can't get my product to market, I'm kind of stuck. And so we had a proceeding, but as part of that proceeding, the Public Utility Commission clearly incented new entrants into the marketplace. So as a result of that, there were actually 4 companies who did not have a single transmission dollar invested who are now entrants into the marketplace. So ERCOT did it before FERC Order 1000, but competition. For a regulated entity, competition, that was kind of a new thing, right? Because you're thinking there's really, in a monopoly state, is there really competition? The answer is yes, there is competition. We understand that. We identify with you as our customers because you have competition also. Clean air rules. Depending on whether you're an R or a D or how you see that, in the great state of Texas, sees that is not the thing they're totally embracing, I think would be a fair way of saying it. The clean energy rules are, in fact, they're going to impact Texas. They're going to impact the entire United States. There's going to be plants that go away. Other plants are going to take their place. In the transmission arena, how do we then successfully plan for those changes? Wind generation and demand. Texas has 12,000 megawatts of wind energy on the system presently. We're headed toward 18,000 if you look at everything in queue, and potentially more than that. The interesting part, if Texas was its own nation, and on occasion we think we are, we'd actually be the 5th largest nation in the world as far as wind energy. But the surprising thing is, wind has a great foothold, but it's not wind that's just eating up the queue as far as new generation. Large-scale solar, that's really what's really moving in, especially West Texas right now. Energy storage. Energy storage is going to be a significant element of the grid in future years. When I say future years, I'm talking a couple of years. I'm not talking about 10 years down the road. Oncor is extremely bullish. We've actually got 2 energy storage projects in the ground right now. We're looking at our 3rd. For those that stick around for the Wednesday tour, and we'll give you a little bit of preview on that, you'll see how bullish we are on energy storage. Demand response. Demand response is part of the solution. And we need to have the rules in ERCOT and the rules in the U.S., I'll say fairly incented, such that it gets its due. Customer expectations. That didn't say meter expectations. That didn't say retail electric provider expectations. That says customer expectations. Our customers expect safe, reliable, fair-priced energy, right? That's what their expectations are. But we got to add a 4th one in there. They expect information from Oncor, especially during an outage. What are we doing to improve service and get them the information they want? And then I'd be remiss if you didn't talk about security, both physical and cyber. It is impacting the industry. So how are we preparing for the future? I kind of hinted at it a little bit. That red bullseye, that really, really sums it up. Enhance and enable our customers' energy experience. That means whatever you have now, how are we making it better? If the marketplace isn't transparent, how are we enabling it? And we do that through a list of technologies you've got there on the screen. Customer technologies. Back up when I first started in the industry, to talk about customer segments was a little bit taboo. When I say that, our stance, especially in front of our regulators, we give great service to all of our customers. And I promise you, we do. That is absolutely our intent. But our customers are changing the way they want to interact with us, right? And so we got a number of key account executives up here on your right-hand side. But some of them have different channels they want to communicate through. Some of them, hey, pick up a cell phone, Reggie Bonner, I'm expecting you to be on the other end, right? But some of them just want to text as to, hey, I'm out, what's the status, right? Others go through our call center. So there's different channels, but ultimately they want information. So we're trying to facilitate that, whether that's through an outage map. I can give you a look ahead. One of our intentions is, not too distant future, we want to be proactive, reaching out to the customer with a text or through our customer representatives and say, hey, you notify the customer that they're out. They know they're out. We want them to understand it, that we understand they're out too. Trusted advisor. What does trusted advisor exactly mean? That means we want to understand what your challenges are, and we want to try and facilitate solving them. Sometimes we can bring a product or a service. Sometimes from our marketplace, we're not able to do that. What do we bring instead? We bring information. We bring unbiased, truthful information. Most people can make an informed decision for their corporation. What do they need? They need the information to do it. That's what our key account folks are there for, to bring that information. Energy storage, I mentioned that a little bit. We've got one small installation just south of downtown here where we've got 5 different units on 5 different feeders. Over the last year, we've used those exclusively from a reliability standpoint. Those customers that are connected to those feeders and those energy storage devices, we've saved those customers 1,100 minutes of outage time. I'd say that's a pretty noticeable number. Microgrids, touch on that for just a second. A lot of people are talking about, hey, microgrids, is that the wave of the future? Not everybody needs that level of sophistication, but if you do, it's available to you, okay? But one of the reasons we went and built the microgrid is operational experience with distributed energy resources, but control platforms and communications. And that really, to me, gets to the heart of what we're trying to do. We're trying to understand your challenge, whether the challenge is from a reliability standpoint or a cost standpoint, and what are the solutions we can bring. If you don't take anything away from my comments, understand that we're listening and we're trying to partner with you to provide the solutions. I'm gonna let the audiovisual guys bring up this video. Gives you a little bit of insight as to what we've got going down at the microgrid. So for those that are, thank you, I appreciate that. So for those that are staying on, I appreciate you coming down to, we call it TDEC, Technology Demonstration Education Center, because it has all those elements to it. But for those that aren't, I hope you're jealous as heck right now, saying somebody else is going to get something I don't get to. Two quick stories for you. One is when we made that video, right? I was kind of proud of it. Brought it home. I have 2 teenage daughters. I said, girls, come look at this, right? And so they watched the whole thing. You know what their response was? Dad, I like the music. That feedback is absolutely necessary, right? We get it from our customers, but it tells me, just in that little microcosm of a second, once my feelings got, unhurt, was our customers demand more, right? That's that feedback that we need to be listening to of, hey, even though we think we've hit it out of the park, there's still that next gear, that next level of expectation. So that's one story for you. This facility, we've had it open since March, and Steve, I got to correct you. If I got it done in 3 months, believe me, I was about to say, I would have been talking to my boss about, hey, we're curing cancer next, right? No. The whole facility from start to finish was developed, built, and operational a little under 9 months. And that was, to me, Encore team did an absolutely fantastic. Lance Spross, one of our directors, they call him the godfather of microgrid. We went from idea to full implementation in a little over 9 months. But during the open house, we bring customers down there, we bring regulators, we bring legislators, we bring our own employees down there. We want to talk about where Encore's going, but where we're going with you. And so at the end of the kickoff event, there was a person in the immersion center, as we call it, and at the end of, we've got a video we show in there, at the end of it, they clapped. And I said, if you clap for an engineering video, we have absolutely hit the mark. We were pretty proud of that, right? But this picture to me is pretty representative of what I think our relationship with our customers needs to be, right? Symphony. Anybody? All right, Instapoll here. Who's ever been to the 5th grade symphony for their kid? Anybody? Right? There's a little bit difference in that performance versus something like Philharmonic, right? But there's still an expectation that that symphony is playing in harmony. And I think utilities think of themselves as the conductor in the equation. We still have to have a safe electric grid. We have to integrate emerging technologies. We have to bring customer solutions. But the best thing about Symphony is the best time you really hear it is when it's in balance and harmony. And that's really what we try and strive for is with you as our customer, how do we achieve that balance and harmony? That's a microgrid we built not to say, hey, here's an opportunity to get off the grid. Here's a microgrid we built to say, how do we utilize it in connection with the larger grid? So again, in harmony with the larger grid. Last slide for me, kind of tease up where I think we're going to head over the next 2.5 days to talk about the opportunities, the trends, but the bigger issue to me is partnership with our customers. How do we think about it? What do we talk about? I'll give you one more anecdote and then turn it over for any quick questions or to the next speaker. Encore utilized the facility also to take its potential new customers down. And when I say potential new customers, in our service territory, there are portions of our service territory that are duly and triply certified. That means they can choose Encore as their wires company, they can choose a municipal, or they can choose a co-op. Well, when you're courting these large national accounts, one of the things that we try and push on them is, I think you want to partner with somebody who's as sophisticated as you, who understands the energy landscape like you do. And so we had a very national account who said, we're going to pick Dallas-Fort Worth, but we haven't decided exactly who's going to serve us. Literally, we worked, the team that worked with them did everything from design work with them, talk about, hey, how would you think about your side of the meter? How would we think about our side of the meter? They were going to have two things. One was solar, significant amount of it, like 5 megawatts. They were actually going to introduce fuel cells. And so what did we do? We took them down to the microgrid. And we started having a conversation as to, okay, what's your experience with fuel cells? What's your experience with solar? In the state of Texas, this is one that most folks didn't recognize. Solar panels, man, you want them to be cranking out in August, right? Because that's the hottest part of the day, the hottest part of the year for us. That's when we got, I'll say we really challenged the electric grid. Well, in Texas, it gets hot enough on electric panels that you actually have to derate them. Anybody got a guess at how much you derate a solar panel in August? Give me a number. I heard 3%, 2%. Close, 20%. That's one of those numbers where people are like, whoa. And that's quite honestly why we went and built the T-Deck, because we were operationally light on the same things that you're investing in. So I put it this way. Do you want to go out there and just partner with anybody, or do you want to partner with the people that have worked through the challenges and have the operational experience that you would expect? I think the latter is a better choice. So over the next couple days, I look forward to great conversations, meaningful relationships, and welcome to Dallas. I think we got a couple minutes if anybody's got a question. Otherwise, I promise you I'll relinquish the podium. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for being here and also the opportunity for us to tour your wonderful microgrid on Wednesday. What I'm wondering, this is Judy Corrigan with Xcel Energy in Colorado. What I'm wondering is, how viable do you think a microgrid would be for these national account customers in the very near future?
So how viable is a microgrid? So one of those things that you get to do when you do a project in an accelerated fashion is you get to learn. You get to learn about the things that you thought you knew, and then you get to learn about the things that you didn't know. And so short answer is, I think it is viable, but I think the people you partner with is going to be incredibly important, both from a utility standpoint, plus those folks that do the engineering on it. So one of the things that we did purposefully during this project is we took 5 different vendors, I'll say 5 major vendors, and brought in their equipment into the facility. And then we actually made another vendor who didn't have any of that equipment be the integrator. And to me, that represents what the electric system is going to be in 5 and 10 years. As much as I would like to control everything about the grid, it's not going to happen. So we said we have to mimic what the ecosystem, the energy ecosystem is going to look like. And so that was part of the challenge is most corporations and most vendors can integrate their stuff in a fantastic manner. To take other people's stuff and integrate it, that's really where the challenge is. So I think it's viable. I think your vendor selection is going to be critically important. I think you're going to learn things about, do you want a centralized, I'll say control system, or do you want to distribute it? I think that's going to be incredibly important. I think your sustainability model as a customer is going to be important, and your price of power is going to be important. So there's things that need to be taken in. It's not a service offering that Encore can do right now, but I will say it is influencing what we're doing on the distribution system already. All right, I see the shy group's in, so we'll say thank you. Enjoy Dallas.
Thank you, Michael. That was terrific.